The parable of the workers in the vineyard, lessons on grace and generosity. The parable of the workers in the vineyard is a story about a landowner who hires workers at different times of the day to work in his vineyard. Despite the differences in the hours they worked, the landowner pays them all the same amount at the end of the day, causing some of the workers to complain. This parable teaches us about God's grace and generosity, and how we should not compare ourselves to others. The parable of the workers in the vineyard is found in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 20, verses 1 to 16. The story begins with a landowner hiring workers to tend to his vineyard. He hires some in the morning, and then hires more at different times throughout the day, even hiring some just an hour before the end of the day. When it comes time to pay the workers, the landowner pays them all the same amount, regardless of the number of hours they worked. The workers who were hired early in the morning were upset that they were paid the same as those who worked only an hour, even though they had worked longer. But the landowner reminded them that they had agreed to work for a denarius, and that he was free to be generous with his money. This parable teaches us that God's grace is not earned or deserved, but freely given to all who accept it. It also shows us that we should not compare ourselves to others, as God's blessings are given to each of us in different ways and at different times. We should be grateful for what we have, rather than envious of what others have. The parable of the workers in the vineyard teaches us about God's grace and generosity, and how we should not compare ourselves to others. Instead, we should be grateful for what we have and trust in God's plan for our lives. We should also be willing to extend that same grace and generosity to others, without expecting anything in return. Let us remember that God's blessings are not earned, but freely given to all who accept them.